Welcome to Good Dogs of Service, where we speak to professional dog handlers about their working canines, their service dogs, therapy dogs, and dogs in training. And today we are speaking to Josh Davis and K9 Bosco. So, welcome and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me here today.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and then what you and K9 Bosco do for a job, who you work for, and so forth?
Yeah, my name is Josh Davis. I work for the San Francisco Fire Department in California. Right now, I'm currently at the rank of firefighter. Excuse me. I'm also assigned to the Cliff Rescue Unit. So we help with people who go to state parks and unfortunately go a little out of bounds, and we help rescue them. Majority of our rescues are actually for canines who go over the edge. They either chase balls, chase birds,
Oh my
just don't
gosh.
realize, and we end up rescuing more dogs than anything. I'm also a member of California Task Force 3 here in Menlo Park, where I'm a canine search specialist. My canine is Bosco, who's laying down next to me here. He's a live find urban search and rescue dog.
Okay. All right. Can you explain what live find is for people?
So for in my urban world for USAR, there's two types. There's human remains and live find. Live find canines are going to identify and mark where a live victim is. Ideally, they're trained on a unconscious, unresponsive victim who can't yell out for help and the human ear can't help them. So they are trained to air scent and use their great nose to find the victim and help us identify where we need to find the victim. Whereas the other side of it is there are human remains detections, formerly
Yeah.
known as cadaver dogs.
Okay.
So they're more kind of secondary response teams. They are usually used to finish up what we couldn't find, help bring closure to families who have lost victims.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And how did your journey as a dog handler begin?
I was really lucky. I got into San Francisco just under 10 years ago, and I had a great opportunity having another firefighter who just started in the program as well. His name is Eli Thomas with the San Francisco Fire Department.
Okay.
He had a great big black lab named Vader that he got from the Search Dog Foundation. So I had a great, I guess, almost introduction into it. And the opportunity arose to where it was my turn, and I got very lucky and had the opportunity, and just it's been with me since.
That's great. Were you just friends with him at
No,
first or?
so where I was initially stationed was his station, so I kinda had a chance to work with him on occasion. So I
Right.
got to watch him work with his canine every day at work and do some of the training and go through it, and it intrigued me. I mean, I've always been a dog person more than, what would my mother would hate would be a cat person because she was the cat person of the family, and I always wanted a dog growing up, so when I had the opportunity, I'm a dog person at heart.
Has it surprised you how much work it is to be a dog handler? Like, it's one thing to have a friend that does it. Oh, that looks really cool. But, uh,
Yes, let's just say I was well taken back when I stepped into this. I had my own dogs. I had done the obedience training with them and got into it. And it's like, okay, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of reps. It's a lot of, okay, let's take a step back and move forward again.
sure.
And then when I got to be part of it and realized what goes into it, I was
Right.
lucky enough to get a canine through the National Search Dog Foundation.
Mm.
And when I got there and the Disneyland that they have created for
Yeah.
canines, it took me away. The staff there was amazing, but I didn't realize how many people they use to train these dogs.
Right. Right. I've actually been on that property. I actually got a tour from Wilma,
Oh, very nice.
the founder. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was pretty amazing. And you called it a Disneyland of training. Yeah, they've got rubble piles and they've got
I
train cars and buildings and everything. So,
I mean, from their multiple rubble piles that we would get to use, their different training yards, their different agility yards, and just the whole kennel situation that they created there to house the dogs, to train the staff. It's amazing.
so I've never really thought about this, but so you have to go to the Search Dog Foundation, and I know you have to go through training. So, first of all, I wanted to know maybe how long that training was. And then the other thing is, I believe you're matched with dogs? Like, you don't just pick your dogs, is that correct?
That's
Could you
correct.
tell us about that?
So for the program, it's kind of evolved over the years, it seems, and it kind of changes from cohort class to cohort class. For me, we attended 3 2-weekend classes before attending a 2-week handler course. And so we would basically go down 1 month for a weekend, get some training, get sent home with homework, read a couple of books and manuals, go back down again. And each time we would go down, we would work with a different canine, just starting with the basics with toy play, to bark barrels, to obedience. And every time we went down there, we would work with a different dog. And that was really them pairing us up and seeing how well we worked with the different canine. So when it came down to the 2-week handler course, we live on campus for 2 weeks. They
Oh,
have a handler lodge there that has bunk
oh,
beds and a kitchen. So it's real accommodating for us to leave home for 2 weeks and be there. And in the middle of that, they pair you with a canine. And when I initially saw it, it was one of those, I don't quite understand it. Yes, I like the dog, but watching a few other classes go through and maybe my weaknesses are better with Bosco. And I got to see how they pair people, and it definitely makes sense after a while.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Since you've been paired with Bosco, and I know you were paired on your skills and how you 2 work together, can you tell me about his personality?
Bosco's a little different than most working dogs. Bosco came from a program called Dogs for Better Living. They are a
Oh,
service. They were a service. They are a service program up in Oregon, who breed and train dogs for service work. Various hearing impaired, facility dogs, autistic people, number of services. Him and his brothers failed out horribly. They were the not the service type. They were the working dog type. Too much toy drive. So
they
they
were the athletes.
they were the athletes. So him and his 2 other brothers were sent down to Search Dog Foundation, and they all worked there. All the
His
sisters passed
brothers.
the service work, and all of the brothers became search dogs.
That's great, and they all pass the search dog test,
Yeah.
which, I mean, you don't always pass that test as well.
Yeah. So we've been lucky enough and we get to see them. One of their brothers is on LA County's team and another one is on Task Force 4 in Oakland. So we actually get to see them fairly frequently and see how each other's are doing. And of
That
course, there's always social media. So you kind of get to keep up with each other that way. His mentality and his demeanor are very different. He has an amazing off switch. You wouldn't know if you
yeah,
came over to the house if he was a working dog.
yep,
A lot of the times when I take him to work and I visit different fire stations, everyone thinks he's one of our facility or therapy dogs.
yep,
He wants to be a lap dog. But
right.
I put on my helmet, I put on my web gear, and I put on the uniform, and he's all business. I mean, he just goes right to work when it's time.
So, one of my friends that I photographed, Eric Gray, he's actually in the background
Yep.
on one of those pictures, and we talked about that a lot, the off switch. That you can have a dog that has a lot of drive, but if they're not a good home dog and they don't have an off switch, that can be detrimental. So I find that to be fascinating. And that's not every dog, as you said.
Yeah. I mean, for working in San Francisco, we don't have very big fire stations. We don't have big yards around our fire stations where we have the opportunities to work our dog and have a lot of toy play. We have busy streets. So a lot of times the dog, doesn't get to go outside. It doesn't, if we take it outside, it has to be on leash or we have to have it in a tight heeling pattern. So we don't get that opportunity. Thankfully, the Search Dog Foundation has given us a couple of tools to help work our dogs at work other than just playing with the dog. All of the dogs have become treadmill trained. So I can take
Oh,
him up to my station gym, put him on a treadmill, and he'll do a couple miles on the treadmill there.
okay.
And then we also do a performance working dog kind of workout, what a lot of people call his little CrossFit workout. He does squats, he does planks, he does sit up and hold. He'll even do a walk up backwards up a wall to work his shoulders. So these two programs really help us keep him active and flexible to take on the demands of the search world.
Hmm. Well, that's really interesting because I guess technically you're a city person. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, where we walk our dogs all the time, and I have a field right behind it. But boy, I never considered that if you're a city dog, you don't have the tools to go and just run and play. So
Yes.
that's the first time I've heard of that.
And I don't have the opportunity to just leave work and take my dog for a walk. I live about an hour east of San Francisco. Luckily, I have a little bit more room here. We have parks and trails and everything like that, and I can take him on some of those, and we can
Mhm.
do some ball play in some big fields.
One of the main purposes of this project, Good Dogs of Service, and talking to canine handlers, is I really want people to know, what does the day in the life of a canine handler and his dog look like? Because, you go out to these natural disasters and it's not your first time, going out to, you have to train for this and you have to train a lot. Can
Yeah.
you tell us about what the day in the life of you and Bosco look like?
So my training with Bosco, I'm on Task Force 3 out of Menlo Park, and we're
Uh-huh.
lucky enough to have multiple rubble sites in a small area.
Oh,
So we have our main site, which is in Menlo Park. It has two piles alone on it. And then we also have the opportunity to work at Moffett Field. They have a rescue site there, as well as San Jose Fire Department has a site that we can access as well. So just within ours alone, I have three different piles I can visit. Also, being kind of in the city, we're very close to Task Force 4 out of Oakland and Sacramento, Task Force 7. So I can visit roughly seven different piles if I really want. And everyone has kind of scheduled their training days on different days. So on Saturdays, it's typically my training with my task force. If
oh.
my schedule doesn't align with it, I can catch up with Task Force 4 and work on one of their two rebel piles.
Mhm,
And then on Wednesdays, you have Task Force 7 that trains. So
mhm.
everyone's working a different day. So depending upon our schedules, I can make one, two, if not three trainings a week if I need.
Right, right. So you're talking about rubble piles, and I don't think people understand, but that is piles of concrete upon, it's like if a building had collapsed.
Yeah,
So that is not something you see every day. That's neat that you have the access to all that. And that's a lot of hard work
it is.
for the
We're lucky
dogs.
enough that we put one of our trainers, actually, Tim Howling, he started his own kind of search program, kind of helping bring other trainers together. And one of the things he does is he puts on a training every year that allows people to come from across the nation, different fields from wilderness to urban search and rescue, to come to these sites and actually get to use it. So you can come out for a 3-day training and hit six different piles.
Okay, okay. I know that name from social media, but wow, it's a
Yeah,
small world. That's
it
really
is a
neat.
small world.
Yeah. What is the best part about your job and what is the most challenging part about your job?
So having two jobs, one being a firefighter, second being the K9 handler for Bosco, it's hard to find time. I go to work and I don't always sleep 8 hours every night. We get calls in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So it's hard to find time where I need to rest, he needs to work. So there's a constant struggle between the two time frames. But the reason I got into both jobs is absolutely wanting to help people. Having the opportunity to help somebody has always been a goal of mine. I can't remember wanting to do any other job other than firefighting.
Oh, wow.
And firefighting has kind of opened the doors to allow me to do search and rescue with a canine as well. So
Right.
again, it's just kind of a continuation of the same idea for me.
Okay.
The benefit, and then, I mean, come on, I get to take a dog to work with me every day. I mean, I have a dog that's well trained, obedient, a little crazy sometimes, but
Yeah.
I get kind of best of both worlds. I get to go do my dream job and take a dog to work.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It's a lot to have a dog with you all the time, though. I do know
Yeah.
that. So, well, great. You just answered the question, which was what motivates you, and you said helping people. So that's awesome. Are there any special topics that you would like our audience to know about?
It's kind of been instilled in me by a couple of the other canine handlers that have been around. They've kind of started in maybe in wilderness with CARTA and they've transitioned into USAR. There always seems to be a disconnect between the two, and we train in two very different
Hold on.
worlds.
What's Carta?
CARTA is a wilderness organization for canines. So whereas Bosco and me, we are primarily air scenting for in urban areas.
Oh,
So building collapses, concrete. We primarily train in that one. Then
Okay.
you have kind of CARTA, which is the other side of it. They do sensing as well. However, they might be doing more tracking and trailing. So they
Yep.
might
Okay.
go up to Yosemite and help look for lost hikers. And we train in very different worlds, and the dogs don't always excel in both. So, National Search Dog Foundation has turned down dogs because some dogs just don't like the rubble. They don't like uneven surfaces. They don't like moving concrete pieces.
Yeah.
It's just not the right fit for them. Whereas they've been able to transition them to wilderness dogs. So it's kind of they've kind of worked it out both ways, but it's two very different worlds. And a lot of times it's very separated
Interesting.
as far as the worlds go, even though we're both canine handlers. But when, it was instilled in me that when the big one hits or when
Yep.
resources are spread thin because, California, we have big earthquakes from time to time. When the big one hits, there's not going to be enough of us. So we're going to need to kind of share the playing field and work together. And I think, some of these programs that Tim has put on, these trainings where we invite wilderness to come play with urban search and rescue,
Oh.
I think can go both ways. I have another team on task force for Shay, and she has two dogs. One does wilderness, one does
Oh.
urban search and rescue. So it's a great combination that I think could definitely use some more work,
Got
more
it.
camaraderie, I guess, would be a
Well,
way I'd like to put it.
I appreciate you explaining all that to me. I didn't know that that was a thing. Do you have what are your top questions that just the general public ask you when you're out and about? Are there some questions that are always come up?
The big one is if I'm out with Bosco and he's got his vest on there, everyone always asks me what is a search and rescue dog or what is USAR. And, it's easy to kind of explain that. The hard questions when I have to explain what kind of work he does. When
Okay.
I explain he finds live find versus human remains
Sure.
and trying to, correlate. One is like the beginning of the process. The other is kind of the last few steps of recovery of the mission.
In advocating for these dogs, which is again the purpose of what we're doing here, do you have anything that you'd like to tell the world about how important these dogs
I
are?
think these dogs are incredibly important. I mean, they do work that no robot has been able to do, no human has
Yep.
been able to do, and they can do it in a manner that is much faster. I mean, we can clear a quarter acre rubble pile that may have been a 3 to 6 story building in a matter of minutes.
Right.
Whereas if a team comes out and has to walk across the pile looking for it or using their specialized equipment, it's going to take hours. And
Right.
when we're dealing with, an emergency life safety, somebody injured where minutes matter, having a canine as a resource is huge. And just the, you know, most of us, we work as firefighters or volunteers or civilians who volunteer their time. Resources are limited for us. A lot of us, I mean, I've lost track on how much money I've spent out of my own pocket
Yep.
to do this. There's a lot of resources out there that help us. The National Search Dog Foundation has grants that are available, time, money. Every weekend I'm out 4 or 5 hours of my time that I don't necessarily get reimbursed for. And there's even more volunteers across the nation who just do this for the pure love of it because
Okay.
they love the dog and they love the work. And there's a lot of resources out there that you can donate to, or, even just go and talk to your local task force and help sponsor.
Just in your area, what would those foundations be?
So for my foundation would be the Menlo Park Task Force 3 Foundation. It's their nonprofit that they created that helps take in money, and it goes towards pretty much all of the resources that they can use for just the task force alone. The other is the National Search Dog Foundation that takes dogs most of them out of shelters and repurposes them into search dogs. Many of the dogs they get are dogs that came from pounds or found on the street that were kind of just dropped off because they weren't fit for a home life. They're
Mhm.
high
Okay.
energy, high drive dogs that just you don't want in your house left alone because they'll eat the couch, they'll eat the drywall, and they've
Right.
turned them into working dogs.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that's a big distinction on why these dogs work so well in your hand versus they don't work so well in a home,
Yeah.
because of their high drive, for sure. Well, I just wanted to thank you for coming on today. And I really just want the world to know about these great dogs and how important they are to society. I believe that we see them every day. We see them when we are running 5Ks and when maybe we're in the airport, but nobody knows anything about them. So I think that's why I don't. I just appreciate your insight to everything.
Well, thank you.